Hi everyone, it's Maddie Brady. We're here to get real about mental health. Stay tuned for some great conversations with some very special guests. Hi everyone, welcome to the Get Real Show. We are here with Kosha Dillz.
Hey.
Also, Rami is your real name, but
Yep.
you have quite a large Instagram presence.
Hey.
And just was saying, I've been following you for years, so
Thank
super
you.
excited to have you on here.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to be here. About to get real. About to get real with Kosha Dillz.
We got very real here.
I like the ambience. I enjoy this couch, so that's I think I'm comfortable to bear all right here.
Good.
Well, so you've been following my stuff for a while, so yeah, I've been rapping for many years. I think I started my Instagram account in 2012.
Wow.
So yeah, it's a long time. And yeah, that was just like the beginning. I just recently discovered that because I went all the way back to when have I been posting since? And yeah, it is been a journey, but I've been sober the whole time, clean, coming up on 19 years.
Wow.
From drugs and alcohol. Thank you. Even haven't smoked cigarettes since like 2007.
That's amazing.
Which is kind of crazy. Yeah, and just and mental health and the whole gamut of like everything that is encompassed under that umbrella. So everything that people witness and see me do on the internet, just know that I've been sober doing it.
Yeah.
So, which is kind of crazy, I think, because I've done a lot of crazy shit. But like,
it's better when you're sober, right?
Yeah. So, yeah. And that's been my journey really, rapping since 2005 when I got clean, really. I mean, I was rapping before, but when I really started getting into releasing music and stuff, that was like one of my goals in recovery was to release music.
That's great.
Get it out there, yeah.
Do you feel like you couldn't have done all of this without sobriety because you've hit a lot of success in your career?
Yeah, so I remember there was this conversation I had. I think I had maybe like 90 days or something at that time. This was like early, and there was this place called The Pyramid. It's still there. It's like on Avenue A between 6 and 7. And just sort of this place called End of the Week, but it was like WEAK. And they had it as a weekly open mic jam session. And it was like the who's who of local New York City, like underground rappers. And this one guy, Pumpkinhead, was like one of my favorite rappers. He was like, wow, man, you kind of like getting your shit together. And I just remember, this guy would see me, on ecstasy, coke, like, always high. And he was like, "Oh, you're kind of getting better." And I just remember it was like one of it was such a spacey time. I don't really remember things. And this guy ended up passing away to health conditions, and he was like someone I always tried to impress. I just remember it really stuck with me because I also, I was trying to like always impress these people, and it never worked when I was high. And earlier on, I started releasing music. Just the fact that I was putting stuff out, whether it was good or bad, according to popular opinion, and people did not like me because I caused so much wreckage in this arena. And outside of recovery, I think people are they're unforgiving. Like, so you could do 99 great things, but if you fuck up in the public eye, you're like done.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And recovery people are like, it's okay. Keep coming. Like, because you understand like that this is just what happens.
Yeah.
So, but everything really is a product of the recovery piece and like showing up. And it's
Definitely.
very like, yeah, I mean, like literally everything. And I know it's sad to say, or cliche maybe, but I wouldn't even physically be able to go to places. And like I even dealing with that clean, or sometimes you're like depressed and you're like in a rut, you can't even leave the house and you're not high. So it's like, imagine if you were.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So.
That's something too. One of the main reasons I even started this podcast was to really highlight real life and sobriety, and that sometimes it's amazing, and I'm so grateful for being sober, but you're still a human being. Sometimes you still are sad. Sometimes you still are anxious. And those are all things that I would much rather deal with sober, and you can work through them. But it's not all sunshine and rainbows on the other side, but it's collectively an amazing, beautiful life that opens up opportunities for you that I know, at least, that I would never have if I did not get sober.
You know, I just thinking, like, because we connected through the internet, and like, you know, when I got clean, it was like 2004. So, but I started my recovery journey like 2000 because I was getting arrested. So I got like arrested on my 18th birthday, arrested when I was like almost 20. Then I went to jail at 20 and then did time like from 20 to 21. And then when I was 22, turning 23, I got arrested again. And then I started my recovery, you know, journey, right? And all of that was just like, at that time, you got to think like now, you know, now everyone puts their, you know, pictures online of everything they're doing, what they're eating, just this is what they're doing, right? Back then, I had 0 pictures of my entire life from that era of like 19 to like 22, 23, because like pictures were like evidence. So I don't have any pictures of me.
Yeah.
When I was like hot, there like maybe some pictures, but that was like the delusion of like what my life was, you know what I mean? So now when I went into recovery, I was like, you know, posting, you know, pics, and maybe I have a personal account now, and I post things that get like 3 or 4 likes, but it's just like things that I like. And I sort of like lost all that, you know, the thirst to be accepted, the thirst to be liked, the thirst to be like, or I don't want to say the thirst. I want to say, you know, the desire, like just like these like unmet needs in my life, probably why I got high in the first place, you know, because I didn't feel part of. And I saw that unfold in recovery. So when I remember MySpace came out, it was like, holy shit, I like upload my music and send it to people online. And I was doing that in real life. Like I would go to the city and like perform and hopefully and like look to be accepted and say, what did you think? And they say, great job. And that was like what my reaffirming, you know, things were happening to me. People were like this confirmation that I was, you know, making an effort and getting better, you know, through the art. And that's like, it really made me feel better on the inside, you know, and it was like a different high, like performing on a stage clean. It's crazy in comparison to performing high, right? Because I never had success when I was getting high. So I only started having success when I was clean. And then like my first TV appearance and just, you know, sort of feeling that, and, you know, my first writing experiences of just compiling tons and tons of writing, my first songs, and just releasing it. I was like really releasing it on vinyl and selling a vinyl and autographing something, and just it's like it's developing and developing and developing. But I saw it go from MySpace to Twitter to Facebook to Instagram to, you know, where it is now. It's like and now I'm like older and I'm like, holy shit. It's kind of crazy to see how the recovery community. I remember meeting recovery people on MySpace, and then meeting them at like world conventions and shit like that. And just, you know, connecting with people. And I thought it was like the coolest shit ever that there were other people out there that were doing art, you know?
Yeah.
Because where I got sober, no one was doing music or arts, or no one was pursuing like, this is my passion. You know what I mean? No one was doing that.
Yeah, I relate to that so much, especially with the need to be accepted. I feel like I fully didn't let go of that need until years into my sobriety. I'm now 4.5 years, but I mean, pre-sobriety, it was crippling, the need to be accepted by other people. Like I would just give any part of myself to be accepted and be in with the cool crowd and have a certain persona of myself. And I even feel like with Instagram and all of that, I was operating under this persona that wasn't me. And I feel like it took me even up until I moved to New York to really realize like who I actually am and get into things I actually like and be okay with, okay, that might not get 500 likes, it might get 3, but it's actually me, and it's not just putting out there what you think is going to get the biggest response.
Right. And I think it's like once, I developed a new character clean. Like, so I'm Rami. Like I go to a 12-step meeting. I'm like, I'm Rami. I'm not Kosha Dillz. Like
Yeah.
I want that shit there. You know what I'm saying? And that has become like a thing in my life because people identify you as, your stage name, your Instagram handle, right? Because I made it into a business. Like the only job I ever had in recovery, just so people know, is that like I worked like, I did shit from like shoveling snow to knocking on doors to, delivering pizza was like an easy thing to do. Like you could smoke cigarettes and like go to meetings and like deliver pizza, and like it was like living with my folks, and I was on probation or parole or either one of, and just making meetings, right? After I was living in like 3-quarter houses. So this is like with this is like 2.5 years clean, and I'm starting to figure out how to make money, and then I'm going to meetings on tour and stuff like that. And the Kosha Dillz thing really branded into the Jewish world, the Jewish community. And I was like, oh, there's like no one talking about recovery here either. There's no one talking about mental health in the Jewish community, because most like religious or cultural communities, especially like with immigrant families, they like sweep any problems under the rug, but there's so much fucking trauma, right? So when I realized, I was like, man, this whole Kosha Dillz thing is becoming something, and then I can't curse because now I'm performing for children. And I'm like, I come from like some street, like I was like smoking coke, like, you know what I'm saying, like,
Yeah.
like, you don't like want me, like you don't want me. Well, we want you to tell your story, but like we don't want you, like we need you to like omit things. So that kind of fucked me up. I would say like just developing, because one, it didn't really let me blow up in like pop culture, and then two, it really didn't let me fully commit into like this culture, because I still had this Rami, this like duality of me as like who I am on a deeper level of like the addiction and mental health issues and depression and what anxiety and all that shit. And that's something I just still struggle with just today, just to find like balance, but also realizing that, what people want to see from my page, the stuff that blew up, is like a lot of Jewish content. Like I dress up as Moses, rap on the street during Passover. I have these videos, I have millions of views. I have videos of me, rapping on Hanukkah. My first viral song was a holiday song. So that speaks to a certain community. The songs I have about addiction, like my song Beneath the Wound, it's too deep. It's too deep for people to even, and not everyone wants to sign up for that. You know what I mean? Like on the internet, not everyone's here to like, oh, he's got like a bit of deep shit. Like, stop, just do your like fun stuff. So a lot of also my other fun things that blew up were very lighthearted music. Like I had a song called Sweatpants Song. I had a song called Garage Sale. I have a song called Hanging Out. Like what other? I just did a song called Taxes. It's just like fun music, but it's light music that comes from like a darker place.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like just a lot of experience of life, and and I use it to make myself happy, and I like seeing people happy. But you're like, holy shit, dude! Like, I don't want to like. It's like a lot, because you can't. There's other people that like I also did this emo world shit. Like I did Vans Warped Tour, and everyone was like, it was so serious. And then when you're there and you're like, you want to be serious, and you're like, oh man, thank God I'm lighthearted. So it's a hard thing to experience, and it's really hard for people to get to know you, because you're so focused on like how to express yourself for more business. Because now the thing that I just wanted to put a record out when I was clean, my first year clean, and now I'm like, oh, this is a full ass business. Now I'm like, this is like what I'm doing, and not necessarily the Kosha Dillz experience. When you hear that, you don't think depth. You don't think, you just think, oh, it's Kosha Dillz. It's like, it's fun, you know what I mean? But I'm like, man, I really want to do other things that fulfill me. That's why I was like on my personal account, I'm like posting pictures of just stuff that I'm like just into, and just, just really not and realizing that like the effects of wanting to be liked while I was younger and now wanting to be liked on an Instagram post, that like mentally affects you, because it's so embedded in our society. So, it's difficult to split those things up. I don't want to run on a tangent, but
No, 100%. I think people need to realize a lot of the people that are the entertainers, the lighthearted people, the ones making other people laugh, are sometimes the ones dealing with the most and dealing with the most demons. And I feel like even boiled down to like the class clown, like people that take up careers in music or comedy or acting are sometimes dealing with the most interpersonal turmoil themselves.
Yes.
And just because people think of them as their characters, like there's a human being under there that deals with mental health issues, that goes into recovery, that has dark days in recovery. And it doesn't mean that you're not both, but sometimes people have a hard time digesting both, I think.
Yeah. That is yeah. It's like the darkest demons. I'm like, oh man, is it that bad? I think that I created this. I remember because, see, Rami, just so people know, when I started rapping, people were using rap names. They weren't using the real names. So people are like, why don't you be Rami Evanesh? Why don't you be Rami Matan Evanesh? I mean, my name is sick.
Yeah.
It's an amazing
it
name.
is.
Yeah, it's a sick name.
It's a star name.
Yeah. Child to Israeli immigrants. I was the first one in my family born here.
Wow.
I always felt left out that I wasn't born in Israel like everyone else was, because then I became part of the Kosha Dillz world. And then Kosha Dillz world is very like, oh, are you like Israeli or Israeli? There's like a hierarchy of Ashkenazi Jew, Sephardic Jew, Mizrahi Jew, Israelis, American Jews. Oh, you're just American, you don't speak Hebrew perfectly. All that stuff like affects you as a kid, right? Especially becoming the Kosha Dillz. Like tomorrow I'm playing in the parade, like the Israel parade. So I'm like on a flow. So I'm this guy of this community, but then in the other community, in my recovery community, which has even given me the opportunity to do all of it, I don't fully get to express that. But in reality, I'm more of a goat there because I got 19 years and I'm young. You know what I mean? I got clean young. So, that's my goal now, is like, how do I mesh the perfect balance of being secure, right? Because it's like insecure, because the perception, if you don't get to know me, you would not know.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You're just like, oh, he's a guy who raps on the street who does this thing, and like,
Definitely.
you don't know that I was running from police or was in armed robberies, or I dealt with childhood issues with my brothers and my parents, and discovering that shit later in life with 19 years. You're like, dude, I'm just getting it now. Fuck, like why didn't I get this earlier? Right? So that's why there's like this saying in recovery, don't quit before the miracle happens. I'm like what they call a late bloomer. So I met so many people in recovery, and they're like, recovery. I'm like, they were on the platform speaking all that good shit, and then they would end up getting high eventually, because they're like the face, like there's no face of an anonymous program. You know what I'm saying? It's like 12-step stuff is like, it's anonymous. So it's like cool there because I'm just Rami. Like I don't have to be part of my work,
Definitely.
And for me, that's like, for my personal relationships in recovery, like it's really hard because people will see what you are online and they make assumptions. You know what I mean? And that's kind of the unfortunate thing, is like when you see a comedian or you see a rapper or you see a band member, you have all these assumptions. Oh, this is what they do. Oh, this is that. In reality, we do that really to like escape all our pain, you know what I mean? But we also communicate a lot. So it's inspiring to people, because a lot of people who don't do art are still artists. They just don't publicly do it.
Yeah.
Right? So I have a lot of people that reach out to me and are like, oh, So I'm very encouraging of the creative. And I think now it's crazy because like when I started getting clean, like podcasts didn't exist. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And now it's like, who gives a fuck? Like you could upload something to SoundCloud. You could do a podcast. I think it's but this entire artistry started when like at a 12-step meeting and you would want to speak at a convention, they would say, send in a speaker tape. So I could hear how you speak at a meeting, right?
Wow.
And then you would speak at a convention or something like that. But now you could just voice memo it and send it. You know what I'm saying? It's just so crazy.
Here's my podcast.
Yeah. And you have like, and it's cool. I don't know. Podcast is dope because like how often do you even have a regular conversation with anybody anymore without something attached to it?
Exactly.
Like some hidden intention or some shit,
No, I love it. I feel like I'm almost the opposite of what you're saying, where, so for me, social media, what I was doing prior to putting out mental health content just left me feeling empty, like exactly what we were talking about earlier about trying to get validation on all of that, because I'm not putting out art. So what am I putting out? Just nonsense, like putting out a picture in a bikini to try to get likes and stuff. And that left me feeling empty and horrible. So now I use my platform because I've gone through the phases where I shouldn't even be on Instagram. The Instagram I don't like, but then people started doing stuff like this and it started motivating me, and I loved seeing other people's podcasts and seeing other people talk about it. And now online I'm the person that's mental health, having really, really dark, serious conversations, but then in real,
or enlightening.
Yes, enlightening as well. But then at work, like I'm the one cracking jokes 24/7, and I'm the one when I see my friends that's feeding all the energy and being like goofy and crazy and whatever. But if you didn't know that I do this, I'm not going to bring up recovery unless if anyone came to me, I mean, literally anybody. Yeah, I'm down right away. Let's get to it. Let's talk about recovery. But in real life, I'm not going out and just saying every 2 seconds about recovery and addiction and this and that. So it is, and I've thought about,
it's so cringe sometimes. I'm like, shut the fuck up.
yeah. So like living with both personalities is definitely something that you have to balance, or else I feel like you can get sucked down the tunnel of just being one or the other, which is benefiting nobody. It's not benefiting yourself or anybody else.
I knew. So the first time I went to jail, it was like 3 months, right? And when I was there, I wrote every day, which if you do like The Artist Way, which is written by a woman in recovery, which I suggest for people to, if they're like into just trying to get like a little boost or a guide to writing. And my brother does this, just writing every day. And I mean, I'm in jail writing on a fucking metal desk, and I'm like, I'm going to release this as a book. And this is when I was 20, turning 21. And I still have this. I have all the letters I saved. I just was writing, and I was an English major that never read a book, right? And this was my first like taste of creativity in my recovery journey. I was still getting high. Went back out, started selling drugs again. I was, you know what I mean? But then that like grew into, okay, I'm journaling now every single day, going through my life changes. I'm just, okay, I'm trying to write every single day. Then it's, going through phases of I'm street performing every single day. I'm trying to make these little projects. And I think for me, when I wanted to release music and put certain things out, like putting out vinyl, I'm very into creating some sort of history. So that was like a new outlet for me. And the great thing about being like an artist in recovery is that there's always another thing I want to do. Like I just did my first like sort of children's book, which I would say is a bad children's book, but I'm like, maybe I'll get it animated and I'll just spend money on it. Going on tour and speaking with people and selling t-shirts and homemade pins and shit like that. I love the act of it because it combines like what I was doing was hustling and making money when I was using. And now it's like through my art, right? But the only issue is like it's the thirst for, I keep using this word thirst, the yearning for likes and acceptance and another $20 and another anything else that sort of makes you feel good, another piece of media, another post that gets over 1,000 likes, it's unattainable. Mm-hmm. It's 10,000, you want 20,000 and 15, and it's like one is too many, 1,000 is never enough. So for me, I'm like, what would really bring me back to the essence of like becoming better in my own recovery and my own mental health would be stopping any form of social media. And I know you were just bringing up like, oh, how do I do it? And I'm like, the other day I was like offering to pay people, like social media people. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna take the entire summer off because I'm not growing and whatever. Who gives a fuck? Like really, who gives a fuck? Like in the span of my entire life, like if I spent 3 months off, because I went to jail for 3 months, and I remember when I went to jail for 3 months, I was like, oh, I wish I went for 2 years. Yeah. Like, because that's what I wanted to do at that time of my life. I wanted to go to jail for a long time.
Oh my gosh.
Because like when you're getting high and you're selling drugs and whatever, you're in there and someone's like, how long you in for? And you're like, oh, you're 3 months. I did a year. And I'm like, I did 5 years. And I'm like, well, yeah, ain't shit. I'll do 8.
So you want it?
You wanted to one up people.
Wow.
Yeah, it's no different than what's happening today. For people are like, oh, you wrote that, or oh, they got this accolade, or oh, that, because that in there, that is the accolade.
That is crazy. So do you feel like a lot of people
it's crazy, right?
Don't even want to get? Is that the problem, you think, with a lot of people in jail, that they almost get addicted to? Well, yeah,
being
it's a
revolving door. 90% of the people I think come back, at least, which is true because I definitely went back. And then there's like, there's like every sort of person in every community, because like we're all just micro communities, correct? So it's like there's a recovery community, there's a surfing community, right? There's a skating community, there's the bike community, there's the running community, there's a recovery community, there's a Jewish community, there's a church community, right? And so you go to church, right? Right now, I don't go to church, but I assume there's like, in the Jewish community, people go to synagogue, and there's people reading, and then maybe in a church community, there's someone who stays after, who takes a couple more commitments there, and they're sort of seen in that's like, shining beam of a person. Surfing community, there's somebody who's like the leader of the pack, right? He's probably a surfer. He could teach people. He's like the guy to know in whatever part of Jersey. And then you have the bike community is the person lead all the bike rides. There's a running community, there's a running leader, and everyone's seen as another person. Now you go to jail, it's the same shit. There's a person that's the head of the community. He's the person that's like, if anything goes down, he's the person that knows. He's sort of the OG. And like all those dreams that you had when you were a kid, like, and these people growing up, and if their father was, a drug dealer and died young, like that shit all affects them to that. And this is what you think is like the best thing for you, right? So then there's the person that says, you shouldn't be here, you should get out of here. So that's what makes them feel better, because they feel like they're doing a service to a person, you know what I mean? They're like the man. And so when I was selling drugs, I was like the guy. I was like the head of that seeking community. So I felt this sort of power, right? Now, the new thing is like, I don't have to like subscribe to any of that. I could shut this whole shit down. I could get 2 likes on an Instagram post and post a picture of a vinyl of like, I found this vinyl the other day. It was like, you are a Jew. And I love very cool, like Jewish niche vintage things that I found. And this guy that I work, like he has a American woke vintage or something, somewhere on Bedford and Williamsburg. So he knows what I like. I get shit, the historical things. And it was like an event at Madison Square Garden like 50 years ago. And he's like, I thought you would like this. And I'm like, this shit is sick. I think it is the sickest thing ever. Yeah. I cannot wait to listen to it. And, I just post that. And this is like something that warms my heart. So now I'm probably like having a midlife crisis because I'm 41 and I'm like, I've seen other people, just my brain has shifted. I was like, what did I miss that I always wanted to do that I didn't do? Like, I always wanted to go surfing, right? So I'm picking up hobbies. Like, I wanted to order roller skates from Amazon because I remember roller skating when I was younger. And, I got a bicycle because I loved riding bikes at a time. I want to get roller skates. I want to, bikes. What else can I do? I want to rearrange my entire apartment. I'm going to switch because I always like really respected interior decorators, right? But like, and that's sort of like the joy of recovery is that you could like do this shit because you kind of understand when you're following a pack and what's up. Like I could go and say, hey, you know what? I probably don't need to apologize to this person, but knowing how they are and I do like them and I kind of want a relationship with them as a friend, I'm going to say, I'm going to step forward and be that. And that's sort of the power that recovery gives you. It says like, you know what? I know I'm a fucking shitty surfer, but I deserve to fucking surf.
You
know
do.
what I'm saying? Yeah,
Yes,
you know what I'm saying?
I
like,
love that.
I deserve to fucking surf. I deserve to adopt a dog for fucking 3 weeks if that's all I could do it, or foster a dog. I can't have a dog because I'm traveling and shit. It's just like, I'm fucking, because I had dogs growing up till I was like 20 something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm like, no, I'm going to fucking get a dog, I'm going to be that fucking lonely ass guy that walks with dogs. You know what I'm saying? For like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
But like that, it's just something like you deserve, because people deserve, people don't deserve to be in jail forever. But like, unfortunately, it's like I don't have to be Kosha Dillz for my whole fucking life. And I made a film and I'm like, no, we're not attaching any Kosha Dillz to this. And I fantasize about like starting over completely. It's like a great fantasy. And I'm like, who gives a fuck? Like, you could be famous in like 6 months, go viral, because you know how to do all these things that you've learned, but it's hard to like shed like old stuff. So I'm on such a journey now of like, no, I really want to do stuff that makes me happy, and if it doesn't, then that's okay too. But like, buy a trip to Mongolia for the weekend or Japan, like, and I'm like, oh, that's a lot of money. I'm like, who gives a fuck?
Yeah, exactly.
So because I'm in recovery, I just, that's the shit that thrills me. Because when I was using, I go on the same road all the time, and when I realize I'm doing that clean, I'm like, shh, stop.
Yeah.
Like,
I feel like I'm doing the same thing I feel like I'm going back to childhood with certain things. Literally next to you, I have rollerblades.
Yeah.
And roller skates, because I had blades. I went roller blading and was like, I love this. So then I got skates too. And I feel like I keep trying to get into more hobbies and more hobbies. And yeah, beforehand, I would have been so nervous. Like, I'm not good at that. I'm scared about that. Even my entire life, I ran and was a runner, competing in running races outside of school, being on every running team. And I remember not even wanting to say I'm a runner because I'm like, I'm not good enough to say that I'm a runner because I'm not state champion, like, or I'm not this title. So I can't even tell people I'm a runner. I just run. And I felt so attached to having to be good at something to do it. And now it's like, yeah, I'll try jujitsu. I'll try to surf. I'll try, if I can't stand up, I'll kneeboard. I'll try to do all these things, and it doesn't matter. And that's, at the end of the day, you really have to detach yourself from your own ego and be like,
yeah,
this does not matter. Nobody cares at the end of the day if I suck at surfing or if I fall on my face rollerblading. Like, who cares, because other people, a lot of the people that will be saying things and like, oh, that's so weird, she's rollerblading, or she's really bad at this or that, they're not doing anything. Because anyone that's happy with themselves and also getting out there and trying new things will never try to put someone else down for doing the same.
This is the crazy shit. I went to Hawaii, right? It was like 2010, and I was rapping. I would just show up at like these Modest Yahoo shows. Like, I just remember he was like, oh, you could come. So me and my boy went, my boy Flex, and it was expensive. I didn't understand surfing was so expensive, and I just didn't have money. Like, so like I had enough money to rent the board, but I couldn't like get a lesson. So I remember doing it. And then like when I was living in Israel, they had these, you live in Israel, these guys that just hang out on the beach. They got the boards, and it's like for 200 shekel, you could go surfing. And I'm like, I always want to do it. And now my other homie, he's taken up surfing. So the crazy shit is when you have like, you're like, yo, I'm going to do certain things. And and just start doing it again. So I bought a trumpet because I used to play trumpet in up to 8th grade, and then I just stopped, right? But I still know it, and I'm like, I'm take trumpet lessons. So I got trumpet lessons, roller skating. I started running. I got a bike.
That's amazing.
What other shit do I want to do? I mean, I used to do Dungeons and Dragons, like, which I probably won't really. I mean, that was cool, but like, I always wanted to write a book, and like my brother has written various books, and they're just PDF books on working out and stuff. But like, I have so much shit that I want to do. It's exciting to say like, I heard this saying, I don't, make art to make money. I make money to make more art. So it's like, okay, I have the Kosha Dillz thing, right? Which is something which is a gift of recovery. Being Kosha Dillz on the internet for releasing all this music has been a gift of recovery. Like I have had Super Bowl commercials. I'm a playable character in NBA 2K. I had a Billboard charting album. I'm fucking wilding out for 4 seasons. I just finished 4 seasons. And like I started introducing, everyone's like, oh yeah, I'm Kosha Dillz, but you also call me Rami. Because it's like, for me, it builds my self-esteem, kills my ego, and makes me perform better actually as Kosha Dillz. Like as like that creation that I created. I created Kosha Dillz. I picked a name. I said, this is what I'm going to do. You know what I mean? It was like, just like you're like, this is the name of my podcast. This is your Kosha Dillz shit.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
exactly.
You're going to do 20 episodes. I did a podcast called Hustle Beach. I did like 11 episodes and I just stopped. I think it's a good idea, but like, I was like, who gives a fuck? I do podcasts. And I totally also subscribed, by the way, to I'm not a runner, and I know people be like, oh, my friend raps. I'm like, and I used to be like, no, they're not a rapper. I'm a rapper.
Yeah.
But they're a rapper. Like that's their definition. Like if they rap at a party and they rap 20 times, if you do comedy at open mics, you're a comic. You're just not at the level of another comic. And that was one of my side quests. I started doing comedy after Wildin' Out, and like I'm getting shows and I'm making people laugh. I'm not a filmmaker, but I made a film, and I don't say it's the best film, but it's like it's fucking. I made people laugh and I showed it. And I'm like, oh shit, yeah, I'm gonna be a fucking big filmmaker. And I don't know, in comparison to other people, I might not be a big filmmaker, but in comparison to anyone I fucking know, like,
Yeah.
So for me, doing anything as Rami, like that fulfills me, is part of like my my self-love as like what I've succeeded in, like as being sober for so long. Like I said, I deserve to make a shitty movie, like a 10-minute or a 15-minute or a 5. I deserve to make I deserve to get rejected as Rami, or, you know what I mean? Like I deserve to just try new things, and I feel like that's like where I'm at now in my thing. And I hope like other people, because I feel like so much I have a lot of shame like attached to not being bigger than I am, and I see these new groups come and they're like selling out venues, and I'm like, how the fuck am I on television? And I still, because they're just different connections. Like you can't shoot a great podcast on your phone. You could have it'll just look different on this camera, you know what I'm saying? So it's like and I think because I was living in this addictive mind state of like, coming through addiction and recovery, and you're so in your own head so much, it's really hard to connect to people because you are so concerned of what other people think and rejection that you never actually got the chance to foster that in your professional life and having connection. So like I'm trying to like shed all that shit and go back down to like me as Rami, and then really it's almost crazy. It's like starting over again. And that's how I essentially got Wildin' Out. I started rapping on the street as a Billboard charting artist, and fucking went viral and got an opportunity, and now I'm on television. So it's like I shed all the what everyone thinks about you, have humility, and then get another opportunity to meet.
Definitely. Yeah. I think the same thing with just being able to be yourself, to connect to other people. I feel like looking back there were so many times where I felt like I had all these friends and all these people in my corner pre-sobriety, and I really didn't know these people that well, and they didn't know me at all. Like, because I didn't even know me. How could somebody else know me?
Mm-hmm.
And then I feel like once I started being authentic to myself and I started actually finding my identity and getting over the hurdle of vulnerability, being able to have real conversations with someone, that's how somebody remembers you, and that's how you formulate a real relationship with someone, when it isn't just that surface level nonsense at the end of the day. That's when you can really formulate relationships. So it's crazy even to think, going back to pre-sobriety, that something as basic as formulating a real, true, deep relationship is something that you don't really have the capacity of.
Right. You don't have the capacity to do that. Listen, even in recovery, just everyone's kind of different. So like everyone has this like trauma, right? So you're coming from, like, for me, I could perform in front of 10,000 people. That's easy for me.
Mm-hmm.
That's something to really get down and like build a relationship with somebody. That means seeing 10 people over 10 times. Yes. But 10,000 people, or run around and get everyone to like you on Instagram or Facebook. That's easy.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, the more difficult thing is, consistently having relationships with other people and respecting boundaries. And because I didn't know, like I was always taught to fend for myself. Like I never had a real job.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So I didn't learn shit that like normal people, or I didn't say normal people, but the majority of society,
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost like unfair, because then you have to you'll lose these valuable relationships in your life because you just didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And it's like, but life isn't fair sometimes.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
You have to live by learning.
Yeah.
But I feel like, it's a lot easier for certain people. I'm the same way, to put on a performance than to show people what's behind the curtain. And that's something that I was always doing prior to getting sober. I'm super curious about how you even got into drugs and alcohol, and what your journey in the beginning looked like.
I tell this story a lot because it's a great question. The neighbor I remember that I always liked, like I grew up in, like, I swear if they did a film of my neighborhood in Larchmont and Edison, shout out to where I grew up, like everyone came from like a fucked up family. I think like if you look at all the people, everyone got arrested. 2 of the parents were like sex offender. You know what I'm saying?
Oh my
Like it was just like there was
gosh.
like abuse and all kinds of shit. And this was like the normal neighborhood. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Everyone went to jail once. People would just, and or if they weren't criminals, some became police officers. Of
Wow.
course. Of course. So one of the kids, he had like, it was kind of like the cool mom, and I just remember going to drink for the first time, and like they gave me, I guess what now would be Tide Pods, that and alcohol, and I just vomited everywhere. And I thought it was so funny because I was like liked and accepted by them. And then 3 years after that, there was a massive bridge party where I like drank till I blacked out, and supposedly I was like pissed on. And this is so crazy because I remember the hottest girl in school like walked down the hallway and she like nodded her head like this, and I was like, oh, I love you, and I love whatever she just did. And I'm like, oh, this is the most amazing. I was 15 years old, and I'm like, this is like what I want. And I was good at sports, and I was successful at wrestling and competitive sports and shit like that. And I started rapping later on, and it was like, how do I get people to like me? And then when I had my first taste of ecstasy, I was like, oh my God, we're like getting closer to it. And then I started figuring out that if I sell drugs, I could be the man. And then I was like, oh, this is what life is about. Like, I was me selling drugs was the first time people were like in need of me. And the rest of my life, and this is crazy that I'm even saying it because I'm learning a lot about needs and wants and independence and codependence. And I think I learned how to fend for myself, but it was the first time in my life that people actually needed me. Because, you know what I'm saying? If you're the guy with drugs, like people need to talk to you.
Yeah.
And that is it's a crazy concept, because if you're coming up and all you want to do is you're just dependent on your mother, dependent on your father, dependent on everyone just, catering to you because, you're sad or whatever, as a child, and it's like just how you're growing up, your parents just because how they grew up, right? Because I grew up to with a family, my grandfather never told my mom anything. He was in 3 different militaries. The whole family died in the Holocaust. My aunt is in the Holocaust. And she doesn't even tell people she's in the Holocaust. She just doesn't think she was a survivor enough. It's just so it's like I come from I come from a family that's like no, it's just and everyone has their story, but like if you look down through what I was doing, I loved wrestling and winning because it felt like I was the fucking man. And then selling was like I'm the man and you need me, and sort of like it just empowered me. Mm-hmm. So, and in reality is now you have to and as you get older, you have to unlearn all these things. Yeah. You have to unlearn a lot of things, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So
your family was super closed off, like secretive with one another?
Yeah, I would even say like now, like my father, I was like, fuck, dude, if everyone dies tomorrow, like what would I even say about that? You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
Just because it's like, if if it happened, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of other people, like, you don't want to say that. You're like, oh, and obviously the things will come up, but it's like, I like do my very best to have like talk to them about real stuff. And it's so difficult for me. It's crazy weird. And I realize it's affected me my entire life. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? It's affected my communication skills. Yeah. It's like, I can't communicate with my fans properly. Why don't I have this, all that? I can't communicate with my romantic relationships and it just, but it's no one else's job to fix the shit except us. That's the thing. Exactly. Like no one's going to fix it for you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah,
dude.
It's just you.
No one's going to fix it for you. That's the cool thing about it. And it's like, oh, it's never too late to just get better and fixing shit.
That's almost a relieving thought at the same time, though, when you think nobody's coming to save you, you can only save yourself. And when you realize that, it's like everything changes because you have to be the one doing things. And I do realize from a lot of people I've talked to in my own life, too, a lot of people that end up in addiction come from very close off, secretive households and then want acceptance and want to be liked, because that's exactly my story. Is that the second?
Yeah, tell me about how you're fucked up.
Yeah. Well, I definitely see parallels where like I was taught to be very closed off, don't share too much with other people, and nobody got.
That's so crazy. My mom's like, why do you have to tell them everything? Ramchi, they don't need them to know everything. But I'm like, dude, shut up, mom.
Yeah. No, that's just, and I think it's a different generation too. It's their entire generation. Yeah. And then on top of that, I feel like nobody got real with each other at all. Like nobody opened up to family members or anything like that growing up. And then
it's a new phenomenon.
Yeah.
Liking your job is a new phenomenon. Like for me, and I'm always like, man, I would just wake up and just be a construction worker and just like drill the concrete and like have nothing in my mind and just except like, you know what I mean? And now I have to be all emotions.
Yeah. No. And then the exact same thing happened to me. The second I started drinking, people were like, oh my gosh, she's a crazy party girl. And I took on this persona as the life of the party, the one that's going to be on the tables dancing, the one that's going to be doing all this stuff. And that is the common denominator in so many people's stories. That is just, we wanted to be accepted, and then got a little, you feed it a little bit, and then you want more of that feeling. You want more and more and more. I can't just be the girl at the party that was all crazy. Like I need to be the party girl, and then I need to be having the parties. I need to be running the jitneys. We would take jitneys to clubs and this.
Wait,
and
what's a jitney?
So it's a little bus in Atlantic City.
Oh,
it's a little bus
with the ride when they're all riding the bicycle thing.
No. So it just looks like literally a shortened truck or bus.
Oh, it's a short bus.
But then, but then at nighttime, a lot of the drivers independently will rent it out to parties.
Oh, okay.
And some go a little crazy and put like LED lights in them. And
Oh,
all
a
that.
party bus.
So
okay.
yeah, like a party bus. But then it just felt like it took over that I had to be this crazy party girl. And not only are you being fed off of being that person, but you're also obviously liking the substances because the substance itself makes you feel like okay with yourself, and it silences all the doubts, and it makes you confident when in reality you're not confident at all back then.
It makes me so tripped out because Atlantic City, I remember it was like my first ever girlfriend. She I was used to sell drugs like with her in the car, like transferring drugs and stuff like that. And I was, this is how crazy. And I remember just going to Atlantic City on like their birthday, and I was like, I'm going to go gamble. And I always liked to gamble, but like I would never really gamble though. I would spend like barely any money. But anyways, Atlantic City was, it's like, you know, a little trashy home from New Jersey.
Yeah, no, it was right by me. So like,
yeah.
I have a Lifetime band to one of the casinos.
Nice.
I got thrown out of several others. Like it was just the spot that everybody went. And yeah, it's not
even when I was in high school there wrestling, because the wrestling tournament was there and you made the states. And I just remember like, I lost, and then I was like, I just want to get drunk, you know. And I remember drinking and stuff, and that was like, I was excited for that, to like party, you know, and just be in Atlantic City as high school, and yeah, it was, you know, I wasn't there even for the sport, you know what I mean? I was just thinking about the after party. Man, it's, you know, now I could go to these places and I seek out the recovery communities, you know. Vegas, there's like great meetings in Vegas. There's like great meetings in these places that there's so much addiction. Yeah, so anyways, fucking Atlantic City.
Yeah. Atlantic City is one of those places, at least for me, like, yeah, you can party in New York, but there's so much else and there's so much other amazing things about it. Atlantic City, it's like, I don't ever really need
Atlantic
to go
City
back.
is just like, yeah, it's kind of like, I don't know. It's like the trash of the trash. It's cool. Because there's like when you think of the Jersey Shore, and it's just funny, shout out to Vinny. I did a couple episodes with him on Wild 'N Out. He's from the Jersey Shore from the show. And, but Atlantic City was like, you know, there's like Seaside, there's like Point Pleasant, and there's Seaside, and there's LBI, and there's Ocean City, and there's Manasquan, shout out to Squan. And Belmar, but then Atlantic City is like trash because it's like the gambling, and it's like people coming from Philly, and
it's horrible.
Yeah, and it's just like casinos, and it's like, yeah, and then you realize that you know Vegas exists, and then you see Atlantic City, and you're like, oh, this is like where, you know, people come to die. You know?
Yeah, that's what it feels like. I feel like it early morning Atlantic City, or like, what is this place?
Oh my God, I'm happy. I never really had that experience there, but you know, I like going to those places clean. I've been there clean, but
yeah, there's some great towns right next to Atlantic City that I have a lot of friends in that are very, very nice. But once you get into Atlantic City, it's not phenomenal.
All right, we should go there.
I mean, I've been back. There are a couple places that are okay, so I'm really giving it a bad name here, but it's not somewhere I would recommend. But I would go. All
right.
But that's actually funny you brought up Vinny, though. I feel like a lot of people from the Jersey Shore are sober today, and I feel like that. To me, I grew up living at the Jersey Shore, and then that show went huge, and it was like everyone was like Jersey Shore, and everyone loved the show, and it further went into that glamorization of the partying and all of that, and it like everyone loved the show. And now you look at it, thank God, a lot of the people that were on the show are sober today and thriving.
The situation is definitely sober like 6 years.
Yeah.
I think some other people were kicked off recently because they were active, or, you know, in you know, maybe like, because listen, you know, with addiction comes, you know, domestic, you could be angry.
Yeah.
let's not sugarcoat it. If you hit somebody when you're drinking like that, that's like a thing that people like to do. They like to get into fights.
Mm-hmm.
They like to punch. You might be punching a guy and you might punch a girl, you know?
Yeah.
Because like really, there's like levels to the shit, right?
Yeah.
And there's things like definitely see addiction, and I like to speak about this. Is like there's addictions. Like it's to me, it's all the same, but to some people, they're gonna get caught doing something that's even worse, right? And it's like the law of you know, if you keep returning the same thing. Like so, if I got high today, I might do something even crazier than I originally. I mean, you know, that's technically what's scheduled because it doesn't like stop. Like, oh, you only did this, you'll get locked up for, you know, something way less. And I think, you know, the messed up thing is it's like what we saw on the Jersey Shore, and I got arrested in Seaside too. Like for when I did time for ecstasy, like I was banned from Seaside Park, or was it not Seaside Heights? And like I was in the, you know, front page of the newspaper. Wow. And these guys, you know, their life is literally portrayed on television. And now and that's sadly like that was their brand. You know what I mean? And like doesn't define. And although like we were just talking about my Kosha Dillz experience is like, even though I'm clean and I go into these events, I'm networking and you know, being a presence somewhere, and people are like, oh, good to see you. You should do this event, or, you know, essentially it's very difficult because not like other people could just go to work and they shut it off and then they get to be their person at home and they don't have to switch, and it's just who you are. And, you know, like I'll be like, what would my life be if I was just like Rami everywhere I go? And it's necessarily up to me. I have to bring that into my own life, you know, so I don't, you know, it's recently been frustrating me when everyone's like, oh, hey, Kosha Dillz, I was seeing you on the street. And I'm just like, in my mind, I'm like, I want to shut the fuck up. Like, I'm just like, I'm like, dude, it's not me. And I'm like at this thing and you know, it's, but like I said, it's also a gift, right? Because it's like making so many people happy. But in my personal life, I could tell that like I have a lot of insecurities about it. So it's like a shit I'm just like working on. So the way I work on it is just like doing more stuff for me. That's like Definitely. I said, that's why I was like, I'm buying some roller skates. I'm like, you know what I mean? Just doing things that let's say normal people do. But it is interesting if I look back throughout my addiction and through my recovery and through my even as an artist, I've always been like an abnormal artist. I was like the Jewish rat. I was like the one of one or one of five. It was like me, Mac Miller, Little Dicky. We were always like this. I never understood what it was like to just be a regular artist. And I've always been essentially, even when I was, you know, I just wanted to be normal. Right. So I've been like, even when you're clean, you're just dealing with the same shit, but I'm just not getting high now and dealing with it. So it's like, at least I have the awareness, but even with the awareness, it's really hard to stop doing what you're doing as you get older. Cause you're like, cause you're so used to a certain way, you know, and only until the pain gets great enough will you change.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you only change when you need to change is what people always say. But I think it's really neat to see into the life of the fame and what everyone else is chasing, because I think a lot of times with the celebrities and people that are dealing with stardom and fame, all of that, it comes with a whole ton of other problems that other people, normal people, are not dealing with. And then people are pretty unforgiving, it seems like, of famous people, like with Justin Bieber has a bunch of mental health issues, and then people are like, well, he asked for that, he asked for the paparazzi to follow him around and all of that. And it's like,
if you're that poppin', they're coming.
Yeah.
You asked for it.
It's like these, just because you want to put your art out into the world and do what you love to do and you're passionate about, does not mean that you asked for all the other implications, could not say that, that come along with it.
It's funny, when you get on Wild 'N Out, people think like you're like, when you get on a TV show, people will be like, you are rich.
Yeah.
You are like paid. And there's recently this article about someone who like was like one of the finalists in American Idol and went back to busking.
I don't even know what busking is.
Busking is street performing. So it's like
okay.
rapping in the street. Yeah. So, you know, I remember meeting one guy, and he was a young kid, and he had a lot of money, and he's like, bro, he's like, how do you take the train? And I was like, no, you take the train in New York. Like, that's what you do. And you're like, just because you're on TV, you don't mean you're going to take the train.
Yeah.
It's like my brand is essentially like DIY, hardworking, and which is what I really always aligned with. And then, you know, other artistry and fame, people are famous and they have huge necklaces and a lot of diamonds. And when you get into one, like I said, one circle, then it's a whole other thing. So I went from being on the street performing, right, to seeing, you know, television. I was rapping outside Madison Square Garden, and then I'm on stage at Madison Square Garden, right?
Wow.
And then I went back outside Madison Square Garden and kept rapping, like you know, you know, not that night, but that's the kind of idea that I guess we're speaking about, is that people are under the assumption. And when you take on this creative endeavor as a career, you have to deal with what other people think about you and not ever really consider it. And it's just a difficult thing to do, right? Because you're like, you wanna care,
Yeah.
but all the reasons why you did it in the first place is why you're still caring. It's not like the new found fame. It's really like the shit from your childhood, and you're like, you started getting on stage because you were insecure when you were off stage. So you found this new security on stage. And now, you know, as you get older and you're like, wow, and you're getting fame, or you get into a new circle, you're like, I'm insecure again because there's other people at this stage that are way more famous than you, and you're so distant from that. You're like, oh shit. And you're like, how did I get here? And just the other month, I would have paid money to be here. Now you're here and you're complaining again. And they had this thing, it's called the Coachella. Obviously, everyone knows Coachella. So I guest appeared at Coachella, right? I did like a guest song on my boy's set. And I'm like, man, that was awesome. I wish I could have done, you know, a full song. So then I got on again. I just spoke on the mic. This was like 2012. Then I got on maybe 2019. I did a song, right? And the year before, I played the campground. And then I'm like, man, I remember Lizzo came on stage, and I was like, you know, whatever. This is at 2:00, right?
Yeah.
And at 3:00 she came on, and then you see the next band, and you're like, man, I wish I was playing at 4. And the 4:00 band's like, man, it's fucking whack. Man, we should be here at 6. And this band that's playing at 6:00 wants to be at 8:00, and the 8:00 band wants to be the headliner, right? Yeah. So you just to like take a step back sometimes and be like, yo, it's cool that I'm even doing anything like that. Like, it's so cool to just make a song sometimes. And I upload shit to my YouTube. I'm doing this new thing. It's called 15 Seconds of Advice. I just start being like, you know, the other day I'm like, you should go to Coinstar because, you know, for $20, like whatever, at least you get rid of all the chain, like little like things. And I'm like, oh man, I got like 1,000 views. And then you get some other rap that gets, you know, 900,000. But for me, it's like so cool to start. Like, what if I just became like an advice columnist? Like, that shit would be amazing. Like, my advice is like just regurgitated shit. Like, get out there and do it.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, shut the fuck up. Like, but it's fun to just be walking down the street and just flip it on and do it and know that I get paid pennies on the dollar on my YouTube channel or some shit. And I'm like, man, this is so awesome. I'm so grateful for the gift that my humility to a certain degree I have. I'll never go broke, and I could always provide that in a relationship, and it should provide security. But if you look at me from the outside and see me rapping on the street, you'll be like, damn, dude, what a sad existence. This guy's fucking broke. Yeah. He can never raise a family. No one's actually thinking that. This is what I've internalized in my own shit because I'm ashamed that I was a Billboard charting artist. I had to sell all those albums hand to hand. I went back down the street performing, and then I got on television. It's like a revolving cycle of shame that people with depression and mental issues have. Is like, you'll never be good enough. And when you do get great enough, there's still something else that's going to be poking at you. So the outside success is like, has nothing to do with it. But self-love, roller skating, you know, treating yourself to an ice cream, or doing your, you know, no bread diet, or, you know, committing to something, or, you know what I mean? Yeah. That's the shit that's like good. I used to hate on poetry. I started writing poetry. I used to hate on it, like, that shit's corny. And then I'm like, I will fucking write a corny ass poem right now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm like, I'm coming from being like a hater, but it's reality because it's like you hate yourself. Like
Yeah.
you have these self.
That's what happens.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
happens, and you become the hater. And next thing you know, you're like in conversations with people, and they're haters, and you're like, dude, I just want to be around people that are very caring, very loving, and want me to be happy with $1 million or $1,000 or whatever.
Yeah.
And I find that pretty much in recovery, you know, and even
Yeah.
in recovery, there's little circles, and that's cool though. But I've been around long enough to see the shit turn over. So I go pick the smelliest person in the room and try to be friends with them.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
Well, that was the same for me. I feel like when I was insecure, I would be like, oh, that's weird. That's weird. That's weird. Now it's like everything's cool to me. Like, oh, you do that. That's cool. That's cool. And because your mind opens when you're okay with yourself and trying new things and just going out there and going for it. And even with, I think it's great what you said, where I think you need to realize nothing will ever be enough externally. So even if you were the biggest rapper in the world, worldwide, sold the most albums ever, nothing externally is ever going to give you what you can give yourself internally, because it doesn't fix what's going on in the inside.
Dude, I've opened for every artist in the entire history of art. I've played shows with Travis Scott, Wiz Khalifa, every rapper. And if I could do it all over again, I would have played with none of them and only done my own shows and just built my own community. If I could have done it, you know what I'm saying? And just find my own weirdos and stuff. Because it's like, you're just, you know what I'm saying? When you're just trying to, it's literally a mirror image. I mean, now I understand the purpose of like supporting another artist, etc., for your career. But like just getting on, just to say you did it, it's all like, so other people could say, oh, wow. So you're in this cycle of a world that only appreciates you when you do stuff of what they think is cool. Whatever. You're doing it for everybody else. It's like,
yeah,
you know, so I'd rather play for 20 people in a house or in your apartment, 15 people, and just, you know, if that's what I have and I have my 15 people here, and then I'm, you know, and I'll like roll with you guys. You know what I'm saying?
Definitely.
And you know, that's hard to do that now in a world where in art and shit. But like, if like I could give any advice or whatever to people ask me like, what should I do? And upcomers, I'm like, dude, just cultivate your own shit. Like if you have a podcast and you have 10 people listening, or you have anything with 100 followers or 30 or 20, I'm like, that shit is so amazing because every person counts. Like it's so cool. I remember going to like, one of my biggest joys is like I go to a gas station in like Iowa or some shit, and I'll be like, oh, like, hello, and what do you do? You know, I'm a rapper and I'm on tour or comic and doing shit, and like I want to write down my stuff so you could check it out. And the amount of fear that I have going into that situation is so crazy because it's like, you're stupid. You shouldn't tell this person what you do, but it brings me joy. So if someone else was like, that's weird, you know, like, fuck off. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not like, it's like, you know, I want to meet people. I want to meet people that would really appreciate it. And there are people there. They're like, wow, that's so epic. You're like, this guy's like has a big following and he wrote down his thing for me.
Yeah.
But for me, it's more like I don't know, it's more freeing, you know. I like to build it brick by brick because I realized that's how I built my recovery. One day at a time, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same. It's one follower at a time. I think the same thing. Like, I love having amazing people like yourself on here that have a great career and are accomplished, but at the end of the day, you're just you. And then I also like to have people on that nobody knows who they are, because guess what? Their story is important too.
I think no one knows me either, but people know me. They just don't know me the way I want them to know me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
What do you want people to know about you?
That's a great question. That I'm a good person, that, you know, that I show up for other people, dependable, that I'm reliable, that like I'm always going to deliver, you know, whatever that may be, as far as like music, as far as, you know, my artistry, but also just as like a human. I was like, you know, I just go through the same shit, you know. like everybody else, you know, pain, regret, you know, I want to do better. I want to show up for people I love. 100%. I want to be forgiven by people that I've wronged. This is like normal shit, dude, you know? And also like, I'm like, you know, want to have a family, want to raise kids. Some shit I want to do, you know, I like living in New York, you know, have a good time. I want to go roller skating, you know, I want to do corny shit. I love ice skating. I like skiing. Like these things, but I'm not the best at it, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's it. Just as like outside of me, it's like, other than that, I want to collaborate with, you know, I love collaborating. So it's like, I like to collaborate with new people. And this is the crazy shit too, right? You know, I learned everything wrong. I grew up learning you should open for all the big people. And now the world is so set for you to like just do your own thing and attract, you know, attraction, not promotion. It's like you film a conversation, you speak to it, you post something, people resonate with it, and there it goes. You know, some get 1 view, some get 100,000. It's fun though, you know?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. That's great. I love just the fact that the simple things carry the most weight in life. I feel like you get to see with people who have achieved dreams and all of that, at the end of the day, it's those little simple things that mean the most. And everyone is just looking for those same couple things in life. I feel like that, or at least on the journey that we're on.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting too, you mentioned that it wasn't just alcohol and drugs that you struggled with. Do you mind opening up a bit about other things that you dealt with?
Yeah, well, definitely the depression piece. You know, I was on meds for a long time, probably like 10 years, and then I got off of it for like 3 years, and then I got back on in like October. So it's definitely helped in the depression piece. I mean, when I grew up wrestling, I wouldn't say I was a full-on eating disorder, but like I've definitely had a weird relationship with food, as far as like making myself vomit to make weight, standing on my head to lose weight, running with plastic bags, you know, shit like that.
Yeah.
And still in my adult life, like weighing myself all the time. Like, and even my parents, my mom's like, it's good weight. And like we don't have to, like, even if I got fat, like who cares? But I just want to not be fat because I'm like, but that's how I also speak to myself. I'm like, I'll call myself like a fat piece of shit. It's so crazy because that's what I respond better to, like negative reinforcement, because that's what I grew up with, like run, look, you know what I mean? Yeah, don't be a pussy. You know, and it's so crazy because it kind of reinforces emotional eating, which is bananas that people don't, you know, really grasp that concept. But I mean, I would say for a man to have that, it's kind of like you can't really have, you're like a guy, you know, but or it's not like full on body dysmorphia, but you just have this, you have issue with your image, right? Yeah. I had that huge with my hair for years. I went to get like appointments for hair transplants when I was living in LA. It was like 2014, 2013. When a man's hair falls out, it's kind of tripping out. And then I went viral for Throwing Bald Festival. Got on Stephen Colbert. So fuck off hair.
So there you go.
Yeah, but it's so crazy that if I told, so a lot of hair transplant companies would hit me up and they're like, oh, we want to support. And I'm like, no, I don't need it. No, we're pro hairless here.
Pro bald.
Yes. That's all issues with your image, you know, and it's like, and it's really, I don't know, it's very difficult.
Well, guys do struggle with eating disorders too. I mean, Russell Brand has said that he was bulimic during his addiction years too. And I think it's a little unfair that it's just linked to, that's like a female disease.
It's a woman thing.
And it's not. It's very much not. I feel like looking back, I grew up in a community where there were a lot of male athletes around me all the time. There's definitely things that stick out, like, oh, like a lot of people just really obsessed with their food to maybe an unhealthy level. And I'm not saying like I'm all about fitness and running and all of that, but then there's the unhealthy side where, like I've mentioned before, like wrestling is a huge sport that
It's not normal to
really
lose 8 pounds in a day.
culminates. Yeah.
But it was normal to me. 6 pounds easy.
Yeah.
6 pounds in a day easy.
I've said like it's running, it's swimming, it's rowing, and wrestling. And wrestling is the one where it's really male dominated eating disorders. And people don't see it as that. I mean, I had a conversation once with someone saying about how when someone's trying to make weight using like enemas or laxatives and all of that, and I said that's part of an eating disorder, and they were like, no, it was for his like wrestling or for his whatever competition. I'm like, that's still not healthy. That's not something you should be doing. But it becomes normalized in the sport, but it's so unhealthy. And then it does trickle into your actual life. How you said you dealt with it outside of wrestling as well.
Yeah, it's still like weighing yourself is like an issue, and like I loved weighing myself after a marathon. You like drop like 9 pounds, like 10 pounds after running a marathon. And it's crazy. Like I love going to extreme levels of like pushing myself to pain. I have like a high pain tolerance, which is not healthy in relationships or like, you know, just dealing with people that, you know, are dismissive and stuff of that nature. Or, you know, anything that's like honestly dismissive, it's bad for pain tolerance. So, you know, when you grow up in this family that's like, oh, you're too heavy or weight, and you're, you know, it's fucked up, I think. But it sticks with you because you learned it as a child. You're like, I was doing it when I was 13, 14, 15, 16, 17.
Yeah, and then it just
18,
keeps
19.
going.
Yeah, just keep going. Now you're like 40, you're like, dude, why am I still weighing myself all the time? And it's like, why don't you just eat healthy and see your body change naturally? You're like, be healthy. That doesn't make sense to me.
I mean, that's still something. I'm over 4 years into eating disorder recovery, and it's still something I have to remind myself, and actually have people close to me remind me. Sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so bloated, and it's like, okay, it was just a meal. Like it all evens out, you know. And sometimes, like, as hard as you try, it's the same thing as just because you're sober, you're not gonna not be sad. Just because you're in eating disorder recovery doesn't mean you're not gonna have hard days or still have those feelings. But the self-talk is something major with my running. I started running as a sport, and then it became like self-punishment where I would be like, you run, you effing fat pig, like just crazy thoughts in my head when I was running. And then that's when I would like use it as punishment. I'd be like, you can't eat till you finish this run, like you're pathetic, you're this, you're that, just horrible things that if you ever said out loud to another human being, you would never do that. So why are you doing it to yourself? And then I did take some time off from running, and now I've completely rewired my thoughts where I love running. And I'm like, oh my gosh, look how beautiful it is out. Look at the water, all these things I never would have thought about because I was running next to beautiful bodies of water before, but I was cursing myself off in my head.
When I started running, it was over like an obsession. And you could just like running away the pain, essentially. It's like, but you know, I love running because I mean, honestly, like I have being an obsession, running really helps. Yeah. Because you're like I'm all about getting into the physical, show up in the body. You know, that's how I really got clean. I was like, show up when you don't want to. I don't know what. Show up, just show up, because it's like physically everyone has the ability to do it. So that's the kind of beauty of exercise. Yeah. You know, to be in it. But I just heard this the other day. It's like if something feels urgent, it's probably not spiritual, and the urgent need to, you know, eat something or yell something or text someone back or just you feeling that like, oh my God, I can't do that. You know, sometimes like, you know, I slow down, chill, and running has really kind of set me into a pace of like, okay, we're gonna go 10-mile runs and we're gonna do this, and it's like it's very similar to the, you know, recovery piece, the marathon. Nipsey Hussle had an album called The Marathon. It's like it's a marathon. It's not a sprint.
That's how I feel today when I run. Like I love my conversations with myself today when I run, and I feel like it's taught me to think before I speak, and because I'm thinking so much when I'm running. So because you're used to running long distance, I'm long distance too, then you're not reactive. Like you're not right away gonna say something you regret, or you actually have to think about it and think about long-term effects of what you're saying. Same thing if you sprint the first mile of a marathon, you're not going to have a very good marathon. You have to think about, okay, let me pace myself, let me strategize. And it's the same thing in real life.
Yeah. Shout out to the marathons. I did the New York City Marathon. It was amazing. Really fun. Yeah, it was the only marathon I ran without music because everyone was cheering so loud for you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm sure that's something you want to experience in the moment, you know? Yeah. So, closing thoughts, what would you say to somebody that's trying to get sober that feels like they can't do it, or they feel like they can't get another year, another day because you have such long-term sobriety? What is your secret?
Well, it is a day at a time program. And if you physically stay long enough, your urge to use will most likely be lifted, you know? As long as you continuously put yourself in the right environment. So, you know, like my new best friends became friends in recovery. But like at one time in my life, I thought I would be friends with the people I used with forever. Right? If you're thinking about recovery or just dipping your toes in, or like, I just want to drink, or just try going to, you know, a meeting, or, you know, like meeting some people in recovery. And I was thinking, when I first came in, I said, I only have a problem selling drugs. And they said, keep coming. And then if I just drink and don't do drugs. And then I just do drugs and don't drink. And then, you know, and that was me. I got arrested. So I was brought here, you know, by the courts. But now there's so many, it's just an amazing community. There's so many amazing people that like literally want the best for you because they understand the core issue that has controlled your whole life, which is getting high. You know what I'm saying?
So when you got sober, did you not want to? You got brought there by the court, and then your mindset shifted?
I also thought, like, man, I'm going to be the most successful person in recovery ever. I was like, I'm going to, you know, I remember that. I was like, man, I'm going to lead these people. And I feel like I'm having a new moment now with my recovery. Like I'm just recommitted to like learning about my trauma, my childhood, like dysfunction and stuff that's really, really prevented me from hitting a real great stride in my personal life. I've got a lot of outside success. Like we've talked about, you know, followers and some financial success and television and music and etc. But you know, my personal stuff, it's like I have to go back to the drawing board and really work on, you know, how do I become, you figure this person looks so secure, you know, like working on really becoming a secure person of like, and then that's just going at the issues of like how I grew up. And it has really nothing to do with, I mean, it has everything to do with me getting high and stuff as well, but it's really just deeper relationships with my childhood and stuff and any trauma that I had. And I came from a great family too. So it's like, but you don't have to figure all that shit out. Like in the beginning, just try to not, I remember I have no money, I have nothing. And just boom, you stop getting high because you can't test positive and, you know, your skin glows and your nose, you could breathe through your nose again. I remember the first day I was able to breathe through my nose.
Wow.
It was like 3 weeks in or something like that. I was like, it's crazy. I had a stuffy nose for 4 years, you know?
Yeah.
I had a stuffy nose for like 4 years. I was doing blow all the time. And then I don't say like on and off. I wouldn't say every day for that long. That's a lie. But I remember just being congested all the time. It's like being like drug sick. You know, no one else might know, but I knew, you know what I mean? And all that shit just happened in the beginning. You get some money, you get some people talk to you. No one talked to me. I need to make this very clear. Like I was savage. There was no one that wanted any relationship with me, thing to do with me, even talk to me. So I came back in like, oh, well, like, you know, girls like me, guys like me, you know, I'm talking to people, like, I could do normal shit, you know what I mean? But I came from never having a job, only selling drugs, only scamming, just, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Getting over on people, So it's an amazing journey. And it starts as just one day. So that's it, dude. It's fucking bananas. And July 30th, I'll have 19 years.
Amazing.
So, I'm trying to be easy on myself. So if I'm trying to be easy on myself at 19 years, you should be easy on yourself if you're trying to get clean.
That's
right. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, you're doing all right, dude. Don't worry if you live at home, or don't worry where you're at. If you're, not in your own place or any of that shit. No matter if you're going through breakups or this, that, you know what I mean? Just like show up, and even people that don't know, even people that don't know you will be kind to you, because it's what we learned to do.
Yeah. And you want to help the next person, and it really is that you get one thing at a time. And even what you're saying, going back and facing this trauma, that's what I feel like. It's like, all right, I faced this trauma, let me go back and face this, and you just keep
digging
going
and learning about yourself. It's a journey. You're gonna cry, be angry. It's rough. It's fucking rough.
Yeah,
but it's worth it. Hey. That's funny.
It really is. Well, thank you so much for coming on here and getting real with us.
Thank you.
You really got into it, and I feel like I've even learned so much from this conversation. So
cool.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me. Should I shout out my stuff?
Yeah, definitely. Tell us where we can find you and your handles and all of that.
Well, everything is Kosha Dillz, KOSHADILLZ. KoshaDillzWorld.com, but it's Kosha Dillz on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, the whole thing, TikTok. It's Kosha Dillz 826, which is my birthday. So mark that down. And if you're in New York or wherever you're at, I have shows and stuff, and you can follow my concerts and comedy stuff on Bands in Town and things like that. And say hello on the internet. And if you ever want to book me for speaking or performance, everything's on my website, KoshaDillzWorld.com, and say what's up.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Peace.
Thanks for tuning in and getting real with us. Podcast will be posted every other Wednesday on Spotify and YouTube. Please reach out via DM if you want to chat.